Let it keep going down. There we go.
So for anyone who is just joining us, we'll be kicking things off in just a minute here. We're just going to give a few more seconds for a few more people to join. All right, in the interest of being very swift with our time, let's kick things off. And Knox, want to just give a wave so we can tell the Anns apart. And Ann Houston is in the white shirt, and Buki is in that lovely blue shirt. And you guys are probably all sick of my face by now, so you know who I am. So thanks for everyone for being here today. I'm just going to do a quick 1 minute of kicking things off, and then we'll jump right into things. So let me just say that the first reason why I chose these ladies to join the panel is because everyone had a different story to how they've approached being laid off or furloughed, or just COVID-19 in general. They've all been in the industry for 10 or 15 or even longer than that years, so they 100% know what they're talking about. I'll let you guys all read the bios, but they've done some really incredible things and events, so I'm so excited to have them all here with us today. So my hope for this panel is that, we can provide some ideas on, how to approach your time right now if you need that. But I also just want to, let people know that you're not alone, and I want you to come away feeling like, other people feel the same as you do. We're all in this together. No one has it all figured out, and we're just doing the best that we can. So I hope you all take that away from this panel. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Ann Knox. Ann, I'd love for you to kind of share your strategy to approaching, your layoff. I think you have a great strategy, so I'd love for you to share it with some folks.
Everyone, thanks for having me here today. I'm a nonprofit event and meeting planner, and I moved cross country right before COVID hit. Had a bunch of contract work, which of course is the first thing to dry up in this pandemic. And so I was left with like nothing to do, no way to use my brain. So at first I became a professional Zoominar attendee, like a lot of us out there. And then I just started saying yes to any opportunity that came across my plate. I took the DES course through PMA to learn more about digital strategy. I volunteered for anyone who would take me. I've started doing things with MPI. I do things with a local group called Rest and Turn and meeting planning. I volunteer for anything that I can. Anyone who will take me, it doesn't matter if it's in my skill set or not. If they'll take a chance on me, I'm completely honest. But I've been doing some like website work. I have no background in that. I've been doing some social media planning for a group. I have no background in that, but you dive in and you learn more and you open up your skill sets. Graphic design is hard, friends. You all know that if you do it, but if you don't, it looks so easy, and it is not just throwing some clip art together. So my basic strategy has been say yes to every opportunity. I've connected with people through event happy hours. And so I've met people in Washington State. I've met people in Hong Kong. I've gone to webinars at 6 in the morning in Singapore. And so it's just like my basic strategy has been say yes to everything.
That is such a good strategy. I don't know how you're balancing it all. I am stressed out just thinking about that balancing act that you're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really great to get involved as much as you can. I mean, that's how we met through the Age of Conversation Summit. Shameless plug, check it out. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a great thing to just, put yourself out there. And like you said, just learn as you go. So thank you.
You're welcome. There's so many great opportunities out there and people who will take chances.
Yeah, they did on us for the Age of Conversation, right? Buki, let's move on to your strategy and kind of what you've been up to during your furlough. So I don't know if you have a plan for when you're back, but what have you been up to during your time off?
Well, thanks for asking. And once again, thank you for inviting me. I find that this is already has been something that has been cathartic because I've had to rethink how I have spent my time. What actually happened to me very early on was I was furloughed. At the time, it was predicted 16 weeks. And I actually got the news last week that my position has been eliminated. So I'm out there with everybody else. And what I did at the time when I got the news that I was being furloughed was I just decided at the time I wasn't going to stress until there was really a need for me to begin to worry. So I sort of haphazardly got into some sort of a routine. I started taking time for myself since I had the time. I would go for walks. I took a training course at the time that's probably very well known out there. It's a Coursera course. It was about the science of well-being. And I took the course because I had heard about it prior, and I just thought this was a great time for me to delve into it and to sort of do some sort of self-reassessment in terms of, okay, this is the situation, how best can I deal with it? And should things become permanent, what would my game plan be? So that was one of the things that I took on as a routine, my morning walks, taking the time to pace myself through this course. It's a webline self-paced course. And then I also began to invest in industry, what I considered industry enlightenment. And my goodness, there is a vast number of offerings out there. And then with that, I realized that I also had to be very careful so that I don't go down the rabbit hole, because there were so many virtual training workshops going on that I really had to begin to sift through them. All of this with the mindset of, should my furlough become permanent, what would my next step be? My previous role was working as an EA/manager within a corporate environment. And I made the decision that I wanted to return full-time, hopefully, to corporate meetings and events. But as we all know, it's more or less the hardest hit industry at the moment. But I also used the opportunity to recalibrate, if you like, in the sense that there is so much of a difference going forward in how the industry predicts that it will move forward. So my mindset was, this gives me the opportunity to redirect the skills that I have, to work more on the skills that I have, and hopefully put myself in a positively strategic position to get back into the industry, hopefully when we know what our new normal is. So with that said, I just delved right back into my networking on LinkedIn. I began to follow the industry groups that I belong to, that during my life of working a 9-to-5 role, I really did not have the chance to get into. So for me, it's been a bit of a positive experience in the sense that I've been able to extend myself. I've been able to learn a whole lot more, various platforms that are out there. And then so many of the industry associations are sympathetic towards those in the industry. There's a massive layout out there in terms of offerings at no cost to people in the industry, as a give back, and also as a source of encouragement for people to, gain insight, gain knowledge, and prepare for what our new normal will be. And as I said, networking has become key. I have met so many people, going through the links, going through the groups that I belong to, and those that I'm learning along the way, which is how I found Danielle, by the way. I also was led into very, very positive environments where I found out that some professional photographers had taken on this initiative where they decided to give back to people who have been impacted by COVID by offering 10,000 headshots on a given day across the nation. And I'll be honest with you, I really was down in the dumps at that particular time, but I did go ahead, I booked the appointment, and then I went. I got the offer within 24 hours, and I was able to get professional headshots updated, which has encouraged me the more to put myself out there, to keep on keeping on, as they say. And, you know, also begin to narrow down, even more so now that, yes, I am officially unemployed, try to figure out if I get a role in the industry that I want to at the moment, what opportunities do I have to transfer skills? So one thing I'm highly considering at the moment, because I do need to remain responsible while things settle down, is put myself out there as a virtual executive assistant. With that said, I've also met several people who have gone on their own to set up their virtual executive assistant role. I've also found agencies that you can work with who support you in finding the clients, and then you in turn offer the services. So I've chosen to remain positive at best when I can. I do have those moments when I just want to curl up in a corner and be a human being and, you know, suck my thumb or something of that sort. But again, I want to share with people that for the most part, what we can do is take this as a positive, even though there is definitely a lot of negative towards it, but that we should all stay encouraged, know that we are in this with a zillion and one other people, and that there is a large community out there that we can tap into as a resource for encouragement, for learning what's new, for sharing best practices, and remain positive and hopeful that the worst of this has probably happened, because the industry is now awakening. There are some people out there already pioneering events, of course, going with all the COVID best practices and following CDC regulations. But hopefully sooner rather than later, this will come to a bit more of a settled situation, and the industry can begin to trickle back and we can put ourselves forward. So that's been my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and especially your advice to just kind of reach out, and people want to help. I mean, I was in contact with this woman who was, you know, a catering manager at a hotel, and I stayed in touch with her here and there, but I reached out to, I think, MPI to see if they could help me promote this event. And it turns out that she was actually the VP of membership. And she reached back out and she let me join a call for MPI. I'm not a member of MPI. And, you know, she just let me come on and pitch the event, and, you know, you just never know. So I think that's great. Ann Houston, you have a little bit of a different approach. You're transitioning into a new wonderful role. So I'd love to hear more about that and how you were able to do that.
Sure. Thanks, Danielle. I'm glad I'm last because I get to build on what some of the other panelists have shared. I think everything they said is great, and it mirrors a lot of how I started my my approach to being laid off. For context, I had been with my previous employer for just over 20 years. So suffice it to say, the layoff came as a surprise and also as a bit of a personal blow, because at that point, so much of your identity is wrapped up in your employer and those relationships. And the first step for me was really to take a step back and think about what was the story I wanted to tell about myself, and how did I want to invite people to help me? Because across your career, you meet so many people, whether you worked with them closely or you worked with them a little bit. I can tell you I've been humbled through this period of unemployment of discovering just how much people want to help people, especially people who are in this situation, but you have to tell them what you need. And if you're muddy on your story, or you're not clear on, you know, do you want a networking introduction? Is there a company that that person worked at that you might like a referral to? There's so many things besides just, hey, do you know about any job opportunities that you can get from networking contacts? So I think the first step is having your own story clear and knowing as you approach networking, how can this person help me? And actually have a few different things in your back pocket, depending on where the conversation goes. And I try to leave each conversation with something that is a next step, whether that's an organization that I should look into that I hadn't considered previously, or potentially a career path or a role that I hadn't thought of. Maybe it's a new person to follow up with, but basically having it be that every interaction leads to another step forward. For me personally, a big part of it was thinking about, well, what kind of role do I even want? I mean, I was head of strategy for an events organization that's part of a really big company. Last year, we were the fastest growing business in the fastest growing division of the company. We were all high-fiving each other, and now we're all unemployed. So things can turn fast. And I guess being a strategist, I'm always looking ahead. And, you know, events industry is definitely going to come back. I believe it. It will probably come back in an expanded form where we see live events return eventually, plus all of the really cool innovations that have happened with technology that make virtual events possible. There's a lot of really good that I think will come from the innovation that COVID has forced on the industry. So I think be ready for that, but don't limit yourself to saying, well, I'm an events person, all my experience is an event, so I just have to wait for it to come back and, you know, hope for the best. I like to say hope is not a strategy, and it's true, it's not. So you need to have a plan. And for me, that plan included looking at my skills and thinking about, well, I've been in the events industry for about 10 years, but prior to that, I did other things. And all of the skills that I leverage in my events work, particularly as a product strategist, are very transferable to non-event products. So I ended up taking an approach where I just documented all of the projects that I was proudest of. And then I thought about, well, what were the skills that really were showcased in those projects? And what were the results of those efforts, so that then I could tell a story that had nothing to do with events, that used my events experiences as examples. You know, for example, talking about how I transformed a struggling event that was having kind of a crisis of identity. It wasn't getting a lot of people to attend because we weren't crisp on who should come and why. And thinking about how we repositioned the value proposition and aligned the content to have a really crisp articulation of the purpose of that event to a specific audience. Well, what's that? That's marketing. That's all product positioning. And it happened to be an event that was struggling that we repositioned, but that work goes into telling a story about any product. So long story short, I thought about a few different possibilities. I thought I could go into product strategy outside of events. I thought I could do marketing or product marketing, or even operations. There's so much staff management, logistics, operational design that goes into event production. And as it turns out, I ended up finding probably the best fit and the most opportunities under the banner of marketing. All around promotion, messaging. You think about what you do in events, it's like you're getting people to come, you're getting people excited about what you have to offer. And then you're designing and tweaking your offer to make that compelling. And so I'm now actually going to transition over. I started on Monday as the head of regional marketing for a mid-sized consulting company. So not events, although interestingly enough, overseeing event sponsorships falls under me now. But what I'm actually going to be doing to contribute to the company leverages a lot of what I have done across the past 10-ish years in event strategy in a new way. So I would say don't limit yourself. Think about what are the stories you're most proud to tell, and what are the skills that they showcase, and lead with that.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, and good luck starting your new role.
Thank you.
So really quick, we only have like 2 minutes, but I just want to get a quick few words from what you guys have been doing kind of outside of the job search to, you know, keep your minds fresh and keep your mental health going. And I know that I want to say that this sucks so many times, but, you know, I do things like put on this event to keep going. So what kinds of things have you guys been up to in 2 minutes?
I'll go first. I moved cross country in part to be closer to family. And so I moved in with my sister to help her with her kids during daycare closing, school closing. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. I wanted to be with family, but did I want to live on top of them? No, I'm just kidding. I've become like family as opposed to just the aunt that lives in California.
That's great. How about you, Buki?
Well, I initially thought I'd learn a zillion and one languages, but that never happened. Just I focused.
Why? Your accent is so good. Like, why would you want to learn how to speak any other thing?
Oh, there are tons more out there in the world these days that it certainly would be useful, but no, I never really got round to it. Again, I focused on self. I focused on my bubble, which is myself and my household, just to make sure that we stayed as healthy as possible. But personally speaking, again, just to make sure that my frame of mind was at a level where I could remain sane and not over analyze the negatives, I just did the best possible to manage the noise that was in my environment. Again, at the peak of the pandemic, I just shut down the media, and I was very selective in how and when I listened to it, just so I could keep abreast of things. I focused more on myself, selfishly as that might sound. I just thought I needed to be of a certain frame of mind. I took up yoga again. I'm not yet able to fold myself into a pretzel, but that's really helped keeping me moving, as well as my walks, if I'm able to get out there before it gets too hot in Atlanta, Georgia. But again, just making sure that I keep my axe sharpened, just keeping myself open to anything that's positive, keeping myself industry aware has been sort of like a goal.
That's great. How about you, Anne?
I'll keep it short. I'd say it's not healthy to do job search all day, every day. So at the beginning of your week, decide what hours on which days you're going to do job search. And then when it's not those hours, don't do it. Go for a walk, learn yoga, pick up the language, bake a cake, do something else, because the frustration of low yield on high effort can really get to you. So sometimes you can't manage yield, but you can manage effort. And I'd say make yourself some hours, stick to it, be really productive during that time. And when it's not that time, do something you enjoy or you just want to learn or do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. We're short on time. So you guys who are watching, check out Derek Johnson's next presentation, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you to our panelists for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Take care.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody.